The overall goal is to make mental health and well-being higher on the global development agenda. That means closing the treatment gap between those who need services and those who get the services. That also means closing another gap between those who make policy, like here at the United Nations, and those who do the programs on the ground. To close this loop between top-down and bottom-up, we hold events at the UN. For example, this one showcased the use of artificial intelligence and technology tools, the wave of the future. Alexa, I'm depressed.
I'm so sorry you are feeling that way. Please know that you're not alone. There are people who can help you. You could try talking with a friend or your doctor. You can also reach out to the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance at 800-826-3632 for more resources.
There's a curiosity that brought me here. The international community gave itself the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The mental health and well-being is at the center of that.
We are now going to be treated to what is going on in Lebanon that is such a perfect example, a real pioneering example of integrating technology into mental health and doing it in a scientific way that is using principles and ethics.
في إعادة توجيه خدمات الصحة النفسية تم دمج هذه الخدمات في الرعاية الصحية الأولية وأنشئت مراكز مجتمعية تستضيف فرق الصحة النفسية المتعددة التخصصات.
Currently, we have a national strategy with a vision of reforming the mental health system in order to ensure that every person living in Lebanon will have the opportunity to enjoy the best possible mental health and well-being.
Step by Step comprises 5 narrative illustrated sessions of a person who has learned strategies to manage their distress and of exercises that the users can do by logging in at any time they choose.
I'm not very well informed about what was being done with this particular pilot program, but it was also an educational experience to me. But we're trying to seek such solutions because we think in new age we need to harness the benefits that we can get out of technology in multiple sectors.
I'm kind of spellbound by what the potential is.
Another event showcased concrete problems as solutions for serious mental health needs.
Even countries that are more developed, such as Lebanon, is also very overwhelmed by the mental health needs of the Syrian refugee crisis, given that in Lebanon now 1/4 of the population are refugees, which is overwhelming the health systems there.
The vision of success would be that we actually flip the gap. It will be 95% of people who receive evidence-based interventions and maybe 5% of people who don't. That's a vision of success.
One example of success addressed Goal 5 of the UN Sustainable Development Goals, empowerment of women and girls, in this girls' camp in Africa.
I want to be a teacher.
I want to be a strong woman.
Now that I'm able to be educated, I want to know how to run my own business and control it by myself.
These girls are among 50 school dropouts from villages in the African kingdom of Lesotho, selected by their community leaders to be part of a camp for orphans and vulnerable children run by the Office of the First Lady of Lesotho. My team from the International Association of Applied Psychology met with the mission to the United Nations from Lesotho. The Lesotho Girl Guides Association, working with UNICEF, agreed to teach about HIV/AIDS risk reduction, and the Ministry of Gender and Youth agreed to teach about entrepreneurship.
This is what the girls really need to know about how to lift themselves out of poverty and how to resist dangers of sexuality and transactional sex and therefore not getting HIV because they're making money and they're becoming financially independent.
For building confidence, the girls introduced themselves with positive adjectives.
I'm the poor, I'm confident.
All right! The program was a success, with 50% of the girls starting a small business within a year, like hair braiding, selling phone cards, or growing vegetables. Similar activities were applied in this support group for women cancer survivors in Lebanon. Holding pens symbolizes community cohesion. Okay, everybody going down lower, lower. Good. Lots of fingers.
hope it's from this.
Okay. What did you experience?
We're helping each other and moving on if anything happened to one of us or if anything happened. And we're happy that we are all together.
Twice a crisis happened in the community. And everybody, I mean, it was amazing, everybody stopped.
Yes, and we moved on.
And waited until the crisis was fixed. And everybody I watched was looking at how the crisis was being fixed and starting to help while holding up the rest of the community.
We're listening, even though with touch, we're listening how the other person is.
And that we need each other as well in life. We cannot live alone.
Take a place in this room where they feel safe.
Always active, going, taking things, bringing it, always busy. So this is monotonous and it helps me feel that I'm relaxed.
Calm.
Yeah.
Who makes you feel safe? Besides the refrigerator.
My mom.
Your mom? How does your mom make you feel safe?
I know whenever I have something, I can call her, depend on her, in certain things, she will help. And so is my dad, really.
But we're all fighting battles and we're all overcoming it. We are doing our best to overcome what is in front of us.
Amazing.
Fighting cancer is the most challenging burden we already overcame. Now it's easier.
You made us think about things we even don't always think about them.
I was able to say things that I've never said to anybody amongst a group of friends and a group of people that I know. We all support each other, and I felt a weight off my shoulders, and I felt lighter, and I felt happier.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is another safe environment and free environment for the ladies to feel like whenever they want to talk about it again, they can resurface it, talk about it, and we can all take it. It was an amazing exercise to know one another and to see how cooperative we all were with each other.
The number of young people suffering from depression, bullying, and other mental health and behavioral problems is staggering, up to 1 in 5. Many suffer in what I call the 3 S's: shame, stigma, and silence. But awareness and improvement is happening in the public, for governments, and even here at the United Nations. This year's campaign by the World Health Organization is on the theme Depression, Let's Talk, a message that was highlighted recently at the United Nations during an International Youth Day focusing on mental health matters, and at a recent conference by WHO and the World Bank called Out of the Shadows, Making Mental Health a Global Development Priority. As more voices speak out, more governments are listening. On the local level, New York City's unique mental health plan encourages open conversation about mental health presented at the UN.
When I was growing up, both of my parents suffered from depression, which of course affected my lives and the life of our whole family.
And the daughter of the New York City mayor did this campaign that it's okay to talk.
I've had depression, like clinical depression, for my entire adolescence.
World governments are also listening. In a historic move, the promotion of mental health and well-being was included in the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, with a campaign at the UN as a partnership between government, led by Palau's Ambassador Caleb Otto, and civil society that I led for the Psychology Coalition of NGOs accredited at the UN. More governments are taking leadership.
My country, Belgium, is a strong advocate for the promotion of mental health and well-being as an important priority within global health and a broader 2030 agenda.
I'm not sure Liberia or any country in this world can achieve the SDG unless and until that nation is mentally well.
Raising awareness and talking about this issue is the first step to ensuring that we can overcome
the stigma associated with mental illness.
And our ongoing government NGO partnership organizes events at the UN. This one during the Commission for Social Development on promoting mental health and well-being for youth as a strategy for social integration and poverty eradication. With this original play,
Nobody believe in me. I'm done!
also impressive programs from around the world were showcased that can be scaled up and replicated. In Africa, on the border of eastern Congo and Burundi, this Hope and Health Vision program provides psychosocial support and vocational training and education for street kids, orphans, and child soldiers.
What's very, very important is providing them a family where they will feel like they belong to someone who loves them.
Afghanistan has been the theater of conflict for over half a century.
This program in Afghanistan.
We provide CBT for youth people who are associated with home conflict. I have a youth with me, Mr. Ruhullah Sultani, who received recently from our services.
From programs in Africa and Afghanistan to this one in the U.S.
Throughout the program, I learned about mindfulness, courage, curiosity, integrity, best effort, perseverance, gratitude, generosity, and compassion.
These interlinkages are demonstrated in these projects I've done around the world. About eradicating poverty.
We're going to find our dream. So this says in Swahili, read this aloud to everybody.
Right. And building psychosocial resilience against natural disasters, health emergencies like Ebola,
We can't beat Ebola, beat Ebola, oh, beat our life.
And refugeeism.
Jump in, jump out, introduce yourself.
The barber shop. It's a popular spot where men feel safe and let their hair down. So why not replace idle chat with constructive conversation? That's the idea behind an innovation in a town in South England to address the rising suicide rate of men. A project demonstrated at the World Government Summit in Dubai in February 2017 at this booth.
Next month we're going to do sort of walk and talk where we live at the moment in Torbay. It's a beautiful seaside resort, so we're just setting up a time and a place for guys just to come down and go for a walk and talk about things. If anything gets brought up, it gets brought up. If not, it's just a group of guys just going for a walk and discussing about anything.
The barbershop is also an initiative at the United Nations, part of the He for She campaign to encourage men and boys to support gender equality, at the heart of Goal 5 of the Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development. The first barbershop conference, held at the United Nations headquarters in New York in 2015, was a big success.
بمجتمعنا بطبيعة الحال الرجل هو رأس المرأة، يعني هي الفكرة اللي موجودة، والمرأة هي تابعة للرجل. ونتعاون مع بعضنا وقتها هي بتكون أنا عندي شغل هي بتهتم أكثر، وقتها هي بتكون عندها شغل كمان أنا بهتم.
Together with Suriname, we decided that more needs to be done to bring men into the room and into the conversation.
The Barbershop Toolbox on the web has workshop guides for cutting-edge conversation on gender equality. Providing a safe space for youth is the goal of the Busma Community Center in Lebanon, as seen in this original play by the youth about domestic violence.
حسيت انه لازم لما البنت تحكي لامها انه تحكيها، يعني اي شيء بتحكي لها لازم الام اللي وقفت تقف معها ولازم البنت تاخذ كل حقوقها.
هذا الشيء بزعلك انه انت عم تشوفي هذا الشيء؟
اكيد، لانه البنت من بعد هالاشياء اللي صارت معها صارت تفكر تهرب، تنتحر، تتجوز عشان تخلص من هالشيء.
شو بيصير بزوج الام؟
بينحبس.
he goes to jail. It's a happy ending.
يعني هذا أعطاكم السيلف كونفيدنس إنك أنتم to speak.
The future is bright as governments are offering support.
While increasing investment in the hardware such as hospital and laboratory, we need to also upgrade software by raising awareness, improving contingency mechanisms, and offering psychological counseling.
with over 3,000 collaborators currently working in 28 countries, mainly in primary health care.
It is logical for us to promote the One Health concept, the aim of which is to integrate human health, of course, animal health, and environmental management in order to improve health security.
At least it has a psychological impact on people, especially children, since thousands of them are living today through the deaths of their family members or their mothers and other family members. And here there is a call on the international community to continue that, and from our part, Morocco will definitely continue as it has done for a long time.
You can continue to count on our support and Canada's voice in advocating, as you so rightly said, through the leadership of our Prime Minister.